Rain was still falling when Sophia locked the cafe for the night. Her shoes were soaked, her apron smelled like coffee and dish soap, and her body ached from standing for 12 hours straight. She counted the tips in her pocket, barely enough to buy groceries for the week. "Life isn't fair," she whispered, staring at her reflection in the glass door. That's when she noticed it, a black leather wallet lying near one of the chairs. She picked it up carefully, half expecting someone to rush back claiming it. But the cafe was empty. Inside were crisp bills, a platinum card, and a driver's license with a name that didn't seem real: Ethan Cole. The same man whose face filled TV screens and magazine covers. The billionaire CEO known for his cold brilliance and zero scandals. Sophia froze. For someone like her, who cleaned tables for a living, this felt like holding another world in her hands. She sat on a stool, heart pounding. Just 1 week of his life, she thought bitterly, and I'd never worry again. Her conscience fought with her exhaustion. The bills on her kitchen counter, her little brother's school fees, her mother's medicine, all of it screamed, "Take it." But another voice inside her whispered, "Don't become like the world that forgets people like you." The next morning, she called the number on the business card tucked inside the wallet. "Cole Enterprises, good morning," said a polished voice. Sophia hesitated. I found Mr. Cole's wallet," she managed. There was a pause, long, skeptical. "Please hold." An hour later, a black car stopped in front of the cafe. A man in a suit stepped out. "Miss Sophia?" he asked. She nodded nervously, clutching the wallet. "Mr. Cole would like to thank you personally. Could you come with me for a moment?" The ride felt endless. Skyscrapers replaced old buildings, and soon they entered a glass tower so tall it pierced the clouds. Sophia had never been anywhere like it. In the elevator mirror, she looked small, out of place, a waitress surrounded by gold and marble. When the doors opened, a man stood by the window, back turned, city lights reflecting off his watch. He turned slowly, and for the first time, Sophia saw Ethan Cole in person. And in that single glance, she realized her life would never go back to normal again. Ethan Cole was younger than Sophia expected. Early 30s, tall, sharp jawline, the kind of presence that made the air feel heavier. His gray suit fit like armor, but his eyes were something else. Calm, unreadable, almost cold. "You're the one who found my wallet?" he asked, his voice deep, controlled. "Yes, sir," Sophia said quietly, placing on the desk. Her fingers trembled slightly. "I didn't touch anything inside." He studied her for a long moment before picking it up. "Most people wouldn't have returned it." "I'm not most people," she said without thinking. The words slipped out, soft but steady. For the first time, Ethan's lips curved into something that could almost be called a smile. "Apparently not." He opened the wallet, checked its contents, then closed it again. "Everything's here. You could have kept the cash, the cards, even sold the ID on the black market. Why didn't you?" Sophia hesitated. "Because it wasn't mine," she said simply. That answer, honest and naive, caught him off guard. In his world, people always wanted something. Deals, favors, power. But this girl, she just wanted to do the right thing. He leaned forward. "Where do you work?" "At the River Cafe, downtown," she replied. "Night shift, mostly." Ethan nodded slowly, thinking. "How long have you been there?" 3 years, she said. "Since my dad passed. It's just me, my mom, and my little brother." Something in her voice, that quiet pride, laced with exhaustion, stirred something inside him. Maybe curiosity, maybe guilt. He reached into a drawer and pulled out a checkbook. "You deserve a reward for your honesty." Sophia stepped back, shaking her head. "No, please. I didn't do it for money." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Everyone does everything for money." "Not everyone," she said, meeting his gaze. And for a moment, the room went silent. He studied her again, more carefully this time. Her tired eyes, the worn shoes, the stubborn dignity in her posture. There was something rare about her. Finally, he tore the check and placed it on the desk. "At least take this. Consider it appreciation." "I said no," Sophia replied firmly. "But if you really want to thank me, maybe come by the cafe someday and buy coffee." Ethan chuckled quietly. No one had ever spoken to him like that. "You have no idea who you're talking to, do you?" "I do," she said. You're Ethan Cole. You own half the city. But right now, you're just a man whose wallet I returned." He stared at her, half amused, half intrigued. When she turned to leave, he said, "Wait." Sophia stopped. "What's your last name?" "Morales." "I'll remember that." She smiled faintly. "You probably won't." But she was wrong. That night, as Ethan sat alone in his penthouse overlooking the city, he couldn't stop thinking about the girl from the cafe. The one who refused his money, who looked him straight in the eye and saw a man, not a billionaire. And without realizing it, the man who thought he had everything had just met the one person who could change everything. 3 days passed, and Sophia tried to forget the encounter. She told her mom about returning the wallet, leaving out the part where she met the man himself. "You did the right thing," her mother said proudly, though her smile faded when she coughed again. The medicine was running out, and the next paycheck was still a week away. Sophia sighed. Right thing doesn't pay bills, she thought, pulling on her uniform and heading back to the cafe. It was a quiet evening. The smell of espresso and rain mixed in the air. Then the doorbell chimed, a sound she heard hundreds of times, but this one made her freeze. When she looked up, she saw him. Ethan Cole, standing by the entrance, out of place in his tailored suit. Her heart skipped. He actually came. He walked straight to the counter, ignoring the stares from other customers. "1 black coffee," he said, eyes fixed on her. Sophia blinked. "To go." "To stay." She poured the coffee, trying not to spill. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I said I'd remember your name," he said quietly. "And I don't break promises." He sat by the window, watching the rain. Sophia went back to cleaning tables, but her mind kept spinning. Why was a billionaire sitting in a small cafe like this? After a few minutes, she approached him. "So, how's your wallet doing?" "Safe," he said with a faint smile. "But I realized something was missing." She raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Good coffee." She laughed, despite herself. The sound surprised them both, light, genuine, something Ethan hadn't heard in a long time. That night, he stayed until closing time. They talked about small things at first. The city, music, her dream of finishing school. He listened, really listened, in a way no one in his world ever did. When she told him she once wanted to study architecture but couldn't afford it, he said, "You have the eye for it, the way you notice details." She blushed, unsure how to reply. "And you? You always wanted to be this." He smiled faintly. "No one dreams of becoming a machine, Sophia." Those words stayed with her long after he left. Over the next few weeks, Ethan began showing up often. Sometimes for coffee, sometimes just to talk. He never came with bodyguards or assistants, just himself. The staff whispered, customers stared, but he didn't seem to care. One evening, he waited outside when her shift ended. "You shouldn't walk alone this late," he said. "I've been walking alone my whole life," she replied. "Then maybe it's time someone walks with you." She tried to laugh it off, but there was something disarming about him. The way he looked at her like she wasn't invisible. As days turned into weeks, Sophia found herself smiling more. Ethan's presence became something she looked forward to. But deep down, she knew this couldn't last. They came from different worlds, worlds that didn't mix without breaking. One night, she saw him on the news, surrounded by flashes of cameras, standing beside a tall, elegant woman, Clara Vance, daughter of a senator and the face of every luxury brand. Ethan Cole rumored to be engaged, the headline read. Sophia's chest tightened. She told herself it was foolish to care. He was never hers to begin with. But when Ethan showed up the next morning, eyes tired and voice low, she couldn't help asking, "Is it true?" He paused. "It's complicated." "Then maybe you shouldn't come here anymore," she said softly. "You don't belong in my world, Ethan, and I don't belong in yours." He looked at her for a long moment, as if memorizing her face. "Maybe that's exactly why I need to be here," he said quietly. Then he left, leaving Sophia torn between what her heart wanted and what reality demanded. The next few days felt like a blur. Ethan didn't come to the cafe again, and Sophia told herself that was for the best. Billionaires didn't belong in places that smelled like burnt toast and cheap perfume. Still, every time the doorbell rang, her heart leapt, only to crash again when it wasn't him. Then on Friday night, a sleek black car, stopped outside the cafe. Everyone turned to stare. The driver stepped out and opened the door. And when Ethan appeared, Sophia almost dropped the tray she was holding. He walked in calmly, but his eyes found hers immediately. "We need to talk," he said. "About what?" she asked, forcing her voice to stay even. "About everything." He waited until her shift ended, then they walked outside together. The rain had just stopped, and the streetlights reflected on the wet pavement. "I didn't lie to you," Ethan began quietly. "The story about the engagement. It's real, but not what you think. It's a merger. 2 families, 2 companies. It was arranged years ago." Sophia folded her arms. "And what about you? You agreed to marry someone you don't love?" He hesitated. "I agreed to save thousands of jobs. To protect my company. Must be nice to have the luxury of choosing between love and millions," she said bitterly. "Sophia." "No, Ethan. You don't get to play the hero. You came into my life like it meant something, like I mattered. And then I see you on TV, smiling beside another woman." He took a step closer. "You do matter. More than you know." "Then prove it," she said, her eyes shining with tears. "Walk away from that world." From her. He looked at her for a long time. The man who had everything, suddenly powerless. "It's not that simple," he whispered. "Then neither am I." She turned and walked away before he could answer. That night, Sophia cried harder than she had in years. She knew falling for him was foolish, but she hadn't expected it to hurt this much. The next morning, she found an envelope under the cafe door. Inside was a letter. "Sophia, you said once that not everyone does things for money. Maybe you're right. Maybe some of us do it to feel alive again. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know you changed me. Ethan." Attached was a note from his secretary. "Mr. Cole has left the country for an indefinite period." Weeks passed. Life went on. Sophia stopped waiting for him to walk through that door. She worked, took care of her mother, saved every penny she could. Slowly, the pain dulled, until one afternoon, everything changed again. 2 men in suits entered the cafe. "Miss Morales?" one asked. "Yes. We're from Cole Enterprises. Mr. Cole left instructions regarding a scholarship fund, in your name. Full tuition at the School of Architecture." Sophia froze. "This must be a mistake." "It isn't," the man said, handing her a folder. Inside was a letter of acceptance, already paid in full. Tears filled her eyes. He remembered. Months later, Sophia walked into a university classroom for the first time in years. She sat in the back row, nervous but proud. For once, she wasn't serving coffee. She was chasing her dream. Time passed. Seasons changed. Sophia graduated with honors, started working for a small design firm, and helped her mom get proper treatment. Life wasn't perfect, but it was hers. Then, 2 years later, an email arrived from an unknown sender. Subject line: Project Proposal, Cole Enterprises. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "Dear Miss Morales, we're rebuilding our headquarters and would like you to oversee the design proposal. Mr. Ethan Cole personally recommended you." She stared at the screen for a long moment, her heart pounding. After everything, after the heartbreak, the distance, the silence, he still believed in her. That night, standing on her balcony overlooking the city, Sophia smiled through tears. Maybe life wasn't about fairy tales or happy endings. Maybe it was about people who change us, even when they don't stay. She looked up at the stars and whispered, "Thank you, Ethan." And somewhere far away, in another city, in another life, a man looked at the same night sky and whispered her name too. 3 months later, Sophia stood in front of the massive glass building with the words Cole Enterprises engraved in silver above the entrance. The same building where she had once stood, nervous and small, returning a wallet that didn't belong to her. Only this time, she wasn't a waitress. She was an architect, hired to redesign the headquarters of the man who had unknowingly changed her destiny. Inside, everything smelled of polished wood and ambition. Employees passed her, greeting her as Miss Morales, and she couldn't help smiling at how life had twisted and turned to bring her back here. When she reached the top floor, the receptionist said softly, "Mr. Cole will see you now." Her heart skipped. He's here. She walked into the office. It looked the same, tall windows, cold light, the view of the city below. But the man standing by the window wasn't the same one she had met years ago. His hair was a little longer, his face older, but his eyes, they still had that quiet storm inside. "Hello, Sophia," he said. "Hello, Ethan." For a moment, they just looked at each other. Two people who had crossed oceans of time and mistakes to meet again. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he admitted. "I almost didn't," she said softly. "But I thought architects should see the foundation before deciding what to build." He smiled faintly at the metaphor. "You've done well. I followed your work. You built something out of nothing." "So did you," she replied, just in a different way. They talked about the project, about designs and blueprints, but beneath every word hung the weight of everything left unsaid. When the meeting ended, Ethan handed her a folder. "This is your contract. The position is yours if you want it." She took it, but didn't open it yet. "Why me?" "Because I trust you," he said simply, "and because I owe you more than I can ever repay." Sophia's eyes softened. "You don't owe me anything. You gave me a chance when I had none." Ethan looked at her for a long moment, his voice low. "Maybe we both gave each other one." Outside, the city buzzed with life, cars, noise, chaos. But inside that office, time seemed to stop. As she turned to leave, Ethan called out, "Sophia?" She looked back. "Coffee?" he asked, a small smile tugging at his lips. "No business. Just coffee." Sophia hesitated, then smiled, the same way she had years ago. "Only if you promise not to overpay this time." He laughed quietly. "Deal." And as they walked out side by side, it felt like the end of one story and the quiet beginning of another. Not a fairy tale, but something rarer, a love built not on dreams, but on truth.